So I tried to read the book. I just couldn't get into it. The movie was much better. Of course, Anne Hathaway is always great, but I think Meryl Streep is really who deserved an Oscar for that one.
Dude, I'm psyched
Like,
to talk about Devil Wears Prada. I love this band.
It's kind of hard to say my feelings about the band as a whole because they've changed so much over their career.
Yeah.
But those first five albums are just iconic. Yeah, Dear Love, lead us off on Dear
All
Love.
right, Dear
Colon,
Love,
Beautiful Discord.
a beautiful Discord. So produced, mixed, and mastered by Joey Sturgis. How crazy is it that Prada came up with Joey Sturgis? He even did their demo before this, Patterns of Horizon, which this is basically a re-recording of Patterns of Horizon. It's every single song plus two new songs, and I think they end up being kind of the best two songs. Dogs and Grow Beards All Over and Texas is South. The whole thing is basically generic 2000s metalcore. We've got the chaotic scream vocals, just chuggy breakdown. Here's a part, breakdown. Here's a part. I think what makes it stand out is you've got a couple of unique pieces. So you've got the synths, you've got moments of like the piano going all the way up and down. Not a ton stands out to me. You see moments of what would make their cleans, like Jeremy singing, great for future albums, but in general, his vocals are pretty lackluster on this release in my mind. Only one part stands out. And the sentence trails off. And the part on the whole record, really, that I like the cleans. I do enjoy that structurally, none of their early writing has any repeating choruses or structure. It's just like moves. Anything could come after any piece. That was fun, and that was part of what drew me into metalcore as a genre initially. The production's pretty cohesive when all the instruments are playing, but then anytime there's like a solo guitar or just a synth or just the drums, the mix suddenly feels pretty empty. And then also my last note, surprisingly unreserved about their faith. I didn't remember that being such a part of their lyrics, but there are a lot of like explicit mentions to Christ, forgiveness. It really was like, for whatever reason, part of their central focus as a band.
Everything we do on this stage, we do for our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. We all know that this man died for our sins.
And that's evident here in this first release.
Yeah, so this is one. So listening to this, because I don't think I had really seriously listened to it until maybe about last year. And this was an album that made me like, yeah, no wonder metalheads hated this. Now, I like it. I like it a lot. But this is like the point at which metalcore, I think, probably around this time, and maybe with some other bands too, I'm not great on my timeline, but this is one of those where metalcore is now like completely divorced from hardcore and completely divorced from metal. In terms of like, they're still using some of the musical things from it, but they're like a cargo cult where, like in the cargo cults, you'd have like a plane crash on some island and they'd start worshiping it as a god. And it's like they've just like discovered these, ancient riffs, like, from punk and metal bands, and they don't really know what to do with them, and they're just gluing them together, like the beginning of Gauntlet of Solitude, where we got this kind of melodic death metal, like kind of riff, and then we suddenly, the piano just goes, and it's like, okay, these are just kids just doing like, okay, we're gonna throw in whatever sounds cool. And we're gonna mix these kind of like emo post-hardcore vocals, and then these breakdowns, and then these kind of like death metal riffs and screaming, and like, yeah, to a purist, I can totally understand why people hated this. I like it. I kind of like that sound. That being said, it still feels very amateurish, kind of like that first Attack album. I do feel like they do a better job of making the songs feel coherent, even though they don't have repeating verses and choruses for the most part. They still tend to feel like songs, like they kind of have some kind of structure to them. They go somewhere. It's not like that early Under Oath or some other kind of bands from usually a little bit before that, where it would just feel like completely random riffs tacked on to each other and in a stapled together with no rhyme or reason. These feel a little bit more coherent, and it's funny because, like you, I was attracted to metalcore for the same reason. The the kind of more complex song structures really reminded me of progressive rock, which was what I was kind of stuff I was more into coming before I got into metalcore, stuff like Yes or Coheed and Cambria for a newer band. We've got like that kind of off-key singing from it's Jeremy DePoister does all the clean vocals, right? Yeah. He has that kind of like off-key singing, which I like, but to some degree there's maybe some nostalgia glasses going on there because I just kind of like this era of, first albums from these kind of bands. So I'd say it's a good album, but it's one of those where I'd give it kind of like a 3 stars, meaning you'll like it if you like this sort of thing. Other than maybe Dogs Can Grow Beards All Over, I don't think there's going to be anything that really like wins people over. That's my take on it. I think it's a good but not a great album.
Yeah, we're pretty much in the same boat. I totally forgot to. Yeah, the chorus for Dogs Can Grow Beards is very good. I glazed over that when I said the only moment that Jeremy sounds good. As you say, we totally forgot to mention the silly song titles. I don't know if they started this, but they certainly were influential, I feel like, in this. Well, I know my band copied it, Attack Attack copied it. That was a fun thing, and it does show that these guys were really just kids. I think they're like 18, 19, finishing high school.
Well, I think Fall Out Boy is a year earlier on that.
That's true. Fall Out Boy does do that.
Fall Out Boy did that. Yeah, and in both cases, the song titles like don't really have anything to do with the songs. They're just random things.
Yeah, and they're both Midwestern bands. Maybe there's something Midwestern about us.
Yeah.
All right. Then the next year, we level up. We're still with Sturgis. Plagues. It's their shortest album of all 9 albums. In my opinion, it's just a better version of Dear Love in every way. I'd be surprised if anyone doesn't like this album more who likes this style. Immediately, I noticed much better cleans. Jeremy really upped his game. It sounds soaring, epic. A lot of great work with harmony there. Guitar harmonies stick out with the riffs. I feel like they did a lot more emphasizing this, but they also stereo pan them. It's fun to see a Johnny Craig cameo from Chiodos. I don't know if you know them at all. But
I know. I know Chiodos. Which song is it?
It's the 6th song. The song is called
Can't Spell Crap Without C. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, this was a huge album for me in my life. I know some people, at least in my circles, don't like the screams here. For Mike, I don't mind his screaming here at all. I don't think it's the best he's sounded, but I do miss this old style of just, I don't even know how to describe it. Just like it sounds like he's screaming at the top of his lungs. It sounds unhealthy. There's probably a very good reason why he doesn't do it anymore.
Oh, I love this album. This is my favorite metalcore album. I think it starts out great. Goats on a Boat is just a great intro, and it starts out fast. There's no kind of like introductory synth or anything. It's like we're just gonna go to it, and then it's this journey that keeps going, and then you get to like the church organ in there. It's awesome, and then the energy just does not let up. Hey John, What's Your Name Again is a classic for a reason. Don't Dink and Drance, that sound, it's got like that really gnarly riff, like that, like a and then the harmony comes in. And that's so cool. And like what I noticed, like listening to it the other day, is that they actually they kind of include that riff, a little bit of it in an earlier riff at the beginning. So their song structure it's still not your typical verse chorus verse kind of thing. Even on songs that do have choruses like Reptar, King of the Ozone, your verses are not going to be basically the same melody or riffs repeated again. So it feels a lot more. It feels like now we have musical complexity that's actually kind of going somewhere instead of just we're stapling riffs together. Again, the first one still kind of had that just we're doing random stuff, and now it feels like we're writing songs, and these songs go places. We get heavier in this, but we also have a lot of kind of post-hardcore, high-pitched, clean vocal stuff, and it all really works. This is just a great album. Like if you want to know this is like the defining album of this era of metalcore, I think. Pretty much every song is good. It definitely, if you're listening to this, like just stop listening to this podcast and go listen to Plagues. I can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, standouts to me, I mean, HTML Rules, Dude, and Hey John, What's Your Name Again are just such great compositions. I especially love like the difference in the HTML Rules, Dude, where we break down and we've got kind of the synthy drums and like the build up to like the really epic keep singing now.
Yeah, that's it.
And even there you can see like songwriting, more maturity, letting the song sit for a second and like really build it, which is different than they maybe would have done a year earlier. You ready to move on?
Yeah.
With Roots Above and Branches Below, 2009, this goes right to my number 1 slot. In my opinion, this is the peak of the Sturgis sound. It doesn't get better than this. The drums are dialed in, sounding so tight. Guitar tones sound so warm and smooth here. So I really pay attention to the mixing. I think it's the possibly second best sounding Prada record. In particular, the synths, I think, were just layered really well. and really do a great job with like that cohesive atmosphere for the record. Mike's vocals dialed in, powerful at every turn, a little more discernible. The record's just a blast. Like, talk about, you thought Goats on a Boat, not taking away from Goats on a Boat, but that started off with a blast. I mean, Sassafras just comes with the click, and just from start to finish, the transitions are so good. We do have our first sort of, like, would you call it a ballad? Our attempt at
Louder Than Thunder.
Yeah, our attempt at maybe trying something new. But it also felt like that was part of the scene at that time. I know Motionless and White had a song like that. I mean, it was just something you did. I'm now having a memory that I was friends with somebody on the dance team at my high school, and I got her to use that song for a chapel performance. So Louder Than Thunder was
that's a very high school of that era moment.
It totally is. It's like, oh, we got Prada. We snuck Prada in. I mean, here, why this isn't as good as Plagues.
I don't know. I mean, like, here's the thing with this one, like, they're neck and neck. Sometimes it's a little more polished than Plagues, and it does have a ballad that kind of does drag it down. Like, it's not that Louder Than Thunder is bad, but it's like, this is really what I'm here for. But no, I mean, honestly, with this and Plagues, like, I think I like Plagues a little better. It really comes down to, like, what mood I'm in. Because again, the Sassafras and then I Hate Buffering, which feels like just one big song, and then you get to assistant to the regional manager with Des Moines, Big Wiggly Style, Danger Wild Man. I have everything on here except for Lord Xenu, like, and then in Give Me Half and Lord Xenu, we've got.
You just
like,
hate last songs.
I think it's like by the time it gets to there, it's kind of like whatever enthusiasm I had for the album is kind of dampened a little bit. Give Me Half,
because I think they end their albums really well.
Oh, I don't think any of those songs are bad. Like, they're just not in my life songs. Like, I probably wouldn't go back to them individually. But, like, on Give Me Half and Lord Xenu, we get kind of a preview of those, like, really fast, precise kind of breakdowns that are going to come in more in the next couple of albums. So, yeah, this is a great album. Like, again, like, it's neck and neck with Plagues. I think I like it a little bit less, maybe just because Plagues is a little more raw.
I didn't expect to have a disagreement, even a slight one, so early on. But, yeah, for me, it's definitely like a head and shoulders above, even though I love Plagues. These are my top two. Coming up with these albums, like, as a drummer, it was very evident how much Daniel upped his game with each release. Thanks for reminding me about the Gimme Half breakdown, because at that point, we'd never seen him do something so, like, fast with the double pedal, and that does really increase over, the next EP and then also the next LP, R.I.P. Daniel. And 2 years later, yeah, he did a couple years ago.
Oh shoot, yeah, that's right. That's really sad.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 years later, we finally divorce ourselves from the Joey Sturgis sound, and we try out Adam D. Dead Throne comes, an album all about anti-idolatry. It's immediately darker, heavier. We got more gnarly tones. You're consistently, like, tuning lower than Drop D now, so it really felt like they were leaning into that. And I feel like, I don't know if that was partially influenced by wanting to be taken more seriously, whether that was because, like, they were lumped into the Christian scene, or it was the silly song titles, or simply just growing up and wanting to try new things. I feel like you could really kind of sense that from them. Along with that, it's like the first album since Dear Love to have a song or multiple with no clean vocals, just screams. To me, it feels like a really good marriage with Roots Above and Zombie, like the relentlessness of Zombie with still the melodic nature of Roots Above shining through. I really like it, but to me it doesn't reach the same highs as Plagues with Roots Above, so I have it in my 3 slot, but there's not a lot to dislike about it. It just felt like there was a little bit of a transition going on, and I wasn't sure. I wasn't on board all the way. I remember that, yeah.
Now, I think this is great, and I actually listened to most of it. No, I listened to all of it today, and then earlier, before that, I probably would have put it a little bit below Roots Above and Plagues, and now it's like, I think it's tied. Like, even the fact that it's got, like, I think Kansas is, like, mostly instrumental, and there's, like, another song that's, like, really slow. Like, it's still, like, really
Kansas and Chicago.
Album. Yeah, it's very heavy. And it feels like Untitled especially feels like they're drawing on some kind of influences from some more mature kind of post-hardcore bands. It's not ringing any specific bells, but it feels like I'm kind of going for a bit different kind of music there. It's just good. It's heavier, darker, but again, yeah, it still has those melodic bits. Still has stuff you can sing along to, like on Mammoth. My Question is a good kind of like single Born to Lose. Like it's one where I'm like I need to listen to more of this. But no, I think this is a solid album. I like the direction they went on this because it feels like they evolved their sound without just completely going to something new, and they still played to a lot of their strengths.
It is the last album with the original 6 for the lineup. So in that sense, I feel like it definitely marks the end of an era. There are like so many strands to watch through their discography, and I feel like one of them I kept coming back to is Mike's vocals. And I feel like here is the first time there's more of a shift. I think he probably worked with how to scream. Because you can, I'm just even thinking right now, back for the 4th time around, I think it's the start of Untitled, and I can hear every word kind of enunciated, which was a shift from what came before it, where there were plenty of things where it's like, I have no idea what you're saying.
And this is where I think you start to really hear his like voice cracking kind of vocals, which I don't particularly like. I think he's still better on this than he is on later, especially on later albums, but better on this than on 818, which is the next album.
818, the last album with Chris in the band, who's the predominant songwriter for all of these, so it definitely makes sense that it's going to be a big shift after this. Well, we don't talk about after this yet. We can talk about this. Romans 8:18, the last faith remnant. It's a depressing album right off the bat. Gloom is aptly named. Energetic bursts, like moments of epicness and powerfulness, but then also lots of quieter moments as well. Songs where Mike is definitely trying out new vocal styles. I think War comes to mind. I'm fighting the war rather than war itself. That line has always stood out. I thought it was a clever line. I've always wondered, you're engaged in the war rather than fighting the idea of war, or you're fighting the idea of war rather than being engaged in the war itself? You could go either way. Couldn't tell. First Sight definitely was a standout to me. I think they're really catchy choruses on this one. Sailor's Prayer. I also love Care More is another one of those trying to go for it songs, and I think it really pays off. Feels like a different vibe from anything I've heard from Prada at that point. Depressing. What do you think about it?
I think this is. I had to look up Care More and see which. Oh yeah, that's their ballad on this one. Yeah, I think this is good. I think it's maybe a little bit of a step down from the previous ones. Just because there's a few lackluster things. I thought Care More was like okay, but again, it's a ballad. Is this really what I'm here for? 818 is like another like really slow song, and it's like this is not horrible, but it's not great. I think it should have ended with Home for Grave. That's the one that's like the God, and it's like that should have been the end of the album. Like you end with Dead and Gone, and then the album's dead and gone. Everything's gone. But I mean, I still think this is a really great, solid metalcore album. Even with that, even with Mike's vocals getting more like voice cracking, and he starts to sound like somebody's choking a rat. I like Rumors. First Sight is great. Again, Sailor's Prayer, Martyrs. I vividly remember seeing them do that at Riot Fest because they were touring to promote this album. And Home for Grave. It's just another solid album. Like all of these 4 albums are. I mean, I put 818 a little lower than the other 3, but they're all so close and so good. It's hard for me to find a lot of bad things to say about them without being nitpicky. And at the same time, they have a fairly consistent style, even despite the changes. Like, we got a little more of like a polished production on this one. Hits are a little more precise and probably quantized more than they were on the past. Great album, recommend. But listen to the other 4 first.
All right, then the big transition. And we have transit blues as we feel the transition. Chris leaves the band, and so with it, leave the songs being led with these giant riffs. They kind of have to find out new ways to write the song, and this new guy, Jonathan, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Gehring, comes in. He replaces James, and so as a songwriter, he's changing things up, and the whole album, I don't know if it's like the tone and the writing or what it is. It sounds depressing, but in a way that isn't good and doesn't have me in my feels like 818 does. This one just sounds The whole album is fine. I really do like everything that Prada has put out. But like when comparing apples to apples, I have it at the bottom of my list. I do think the last 3 to 4 songs, which is really the last 4 songs, but taking out Submersion, are pretty good. Like To the Key of Evergreen, I think is them at their strongest of this style, which is like, in my mind, it's like the heaviest version of indie rock they're trying. It's like they are trying to be an indie band. Home for Grave 2, I really like. It's a story that actually grips you and you can feel the emotion. I don't see the connection to Home for Grave to the first one, maybe there's thematic stuff. And Transit Blues, I really like. But again, I really like all their closing tracks. I do think the album as a whole, my hypothesis is it's like twofold. I think it's about losing their faith in Christianity, and so there's that transition, and they're like trying to find their way through that. But also, they're probably touring like crazy, and you see a lot of that with like flyover states worldwide, and so they're probably feeling the blues of like feeling aimless and not like they can have a home. So I think it's those two things married together.
Yeah, this is the like we need street cred album. We're embarrassed about everything in our past album. Like this is the. And I do not like this album. It starts out with the 4 worst songs that Prada ever put to record, and then the rest of the songs are boring, and the rest of the songs sound like a really dull version of either Touche Amore or La Dispute. Like the guitar tone is much worse. It sounds like clanky. It sounds like somebody like running a first act guitar through like the world's worst like not tube amp. Praise Poison is awful. It has horrible lyrics. Like I'll probably go back to this a little bit more, but like the way they seem to tackle like they're not being a Christian band anymore, whether that's losing their faith or like not having it to begin with or whatever, it just does not resonate with me at all. As opposed to like the way that like Me Without You, like I think the last 3 Me Without You songs or albums are really about Aaron Weiss like not being a Christian anymore. But there's stuff on there that I really like, even though I am a Christian, I really resonate with it. I feel like it's very beautifully done and sensitively told. And this is like, praise poison, they filled your head with the devil and God. I'm not gonna clean my room, Mom. I'm like, and then the rest of the lyrics on the song are bad too. It's a Monday, let me be mundane or something like that. Like, who wrote this? Like, was the guy who left the band, was he writing the lyrics too?
No,
or was he just writing the song?
Mike wrote all the lyrics through this album. Moving forward, he starts to split with the new guy, and I'm sure we'll touch on those because before this and even through some of this, I don't tell as much, but it's like everything's very poetic, and that was one of the things that set them apart from their contemporaries. It'd be like big, intense words that you wouldn't hear A Day to Remember saying, vanity, sepulcher, that sort of thing, whatever.
Yeah, not
to step on your point.
I thought Daughter was bad. Worldwide, it's like I don't want to hear The Devil Wears Prada singing about Tokyo. I thought Lock and Load was awful. It's like this is the beginning of their ill-advised and half-hearted attempt at being a political band. I don't like this album. I think it's their worst album.
Yeah.
On to The Act.
The Act, the weirdest Prada album for me. It's depressing like Transit Blues, but it's more experimental musically. It's the first time that Mike's not the sole songwriter in terms of lyrics. He splits with Jonathan. And you can tell in my mind because it's a little less poetic. It's a little more straightforward in places. After going through Transit Blues, I feel like we sort of saw that start then. I didn't realize that when I was listening through. It's our first venture into straightforward radio rock with Chemical, which is not what I typically like Prada for. Songs like Please Say No, that's me saying that to ever hearing that song again. Please, no. I wouldn't like to hear that song again. Generally, I dislike the first half. Yeah. Generally speaking, I dislike the first half, and I like the second half. The second half is when it's at its most experimental and odd, but I kind of like vibe with it. So by that point, I may be on that wavelength, or maybe I just like those songs better. Songs like Numb and Isn't It Strange, I never would have thought of as like listening to beforehand, but they really work for me. The Thread is probably my favorite song on the album. It's got an amazing breakdown at the end. It feels massive. And the lead single, Lines of Your Hands, I do really like, and I found out today that the female vocals on it, which are typically like my favorite part of the song, it's Sierra Kay, who also did the If It Means a Lot to You. She's the girl singer in the A Day to Remember song. Spiderhead, the closing track, sounds like the most natural Prada song, like what I would have expected from them, having heard nothing beforehand. Overall, it's sort of, I don't know, in the context of their whole discography now, I feel more at peace with it. When it was like their most recent offering, I wasn't loving the vibe. So I've got it above Dear Love, below Dead Throne, because I actually find it more musically engaging. Like I'd probably more return to a couple songs on here before I would play anything off of Dear Love that isn't Dogs Can Grow Beards.
No, this one just doesn't do it for me. Like I even went back and listened to the songs like again, like or just like bits of them to try to refamiliarize myself because I like forgot almost everything on here. This is just so boring. Mike's is half doing this kind of spoken word, like Touche Amore thing, and then his scream is now just this weird high-pitched rasp that sounds awful. I don't even think you can blame it on him getting older, because there's other singers his age or older who have better sounding screams. I think this is an intentional decision. He doesn't sound like this on Zombie 2. I think it's a bad decision. The whole album just bores me to death. Like, Please Say No, I agree. That's an awful song. I don't like Numb, because no band after Linkin Park needed to do a song called Numb. The best Numb has already been done. Come up with something else. It's just, As Kids is the first of like what feels like 1,000 songs they do about the fact that they're in their 30s. Like, get over it. I don't know. It's not bad, really. It's not. There's nothing as bad as like the first half of Transit Blues, but it's just all boring. And like, it's like, if anything, any individual song came on and I didn't know it was like The Devil Wears Prada or whatever, it would just be like, oh, that was okay, I guess. I'm never going back to that again. And I think with this, like, on repeated listens, it gets worse and worse. It's kind of like the Nickelback phenomenon, where something that's just kind of bland and boring actually begins to irritate you more than something that's actively bad as you keep listening to it. And so, like, I feel like if I had to listen to this album, I listened to it about like three or five times. If I had to listen to it even more, it would just get worse. I put it above Transit Blues and below 818.
It would make sense that our opinions start to differ here. This is where I expected they would. If I had my first listen through, I do think these would all be, I'd be a lot more negative. But it's almost like I recategorize them in my head with like new expectations. Speaking of which, we have Color Decay. Because this is a shift back toward mainstream sounds. It's like an incredibly melodic record. The flip side of that is I noticed the simplicity of a lot of the lyrics. They really don't feel as thoughtful or thought-provoking. And even larger departure from the act. I mean, songs like Broken...
My hands are torn up from all these broken bottles. It sounds like there's something...
Never hit me, but yeah. It's simple, you know? And so I do think it was like, whether it was intentional or not, it certainly reached a new audience. It's far more digestible than anything they've done in ever, really. And so it did have a lot of popularity with it. And it made me think, like, am I missing something? You have a lot more, like, just straightforward rock-oriented songs, like Salt, Broken, Cancer. So the whole time, though, it's like I don't dislike it. Like, I'm not listening and being like, well, this sucks. It just, to me, this is more boring, and songs blend together, and like, when I think to go return to something, I am more drawn to something like a weirder, more experimental song off of The Act than I am to listen to, like, You Hope the Hero You Had Cancer, so he wasn't a sex predator. Which is what that song is about.
Wait, what? Explain, because I was gonna make this joke about, like, these lyrics don't make any sense. Like, you go to the doctor and he's like, you have cancer, and he's like, oh, good, I was afraid I had herpes. You know,
no, it was about this moment in time, like COVID area right beforehand, or I guess right afterward, where people would start trending on Twitter, and Jeremy finding himself being like, oh, like, I hope it's because they died, not because Bill Cosby, this guy I loved, you know, it's like, oh, another hero fallen, another guy, oh, he actually sucked, you're not allowed to like him anymore. So it's not literally cancer, they turned it into that, but it's more, it's like, I hope you're trending for a thing that's not gonna, like, shatter how I think of you as a person, you know what I mean? These people that he looked up to.
Oh, but it made it sound like it was about himself, so it's like, I hope I have cancer. That makes more
There are
sense.
still a few heavy songs, like Watchtower and Hallucinate, which, like, hold it down for kind of that, scratch that itch that you hope for when you go to Prada. I do think of the songs that are not standard Prada, 25 was probably one of my favorites on the album. Reaching was also pretty good. That's a bonus track, but that's a heavy song. So where do I have my last notes here? Sonically pleasing, but I often find myself bored comparatively. I do feel like some of the lyrics feel a little try-hard, but that's less what I look to them for. Rating it, I've got it pretty low.
Yeah, I'd probably put it above The Act and Transit Blues, but not by much. I think, yeah, like you said, like, there's nothing bad. It feels competent but soulless. Whereas the previous two albums, even when they were bad, it did feel like there was something that they were going for, even if it was ripping off Touche Amore. It wasn't like a calculated commercial kind of thing. and this feels very much like generic, made for radio, made for Spotify playlists, made to play in the background, made to not think about. And it just sounds like so much other like radio rock slash modern metalcore. Sounds like pop music with some guitars added, and not like good or interesting pop music. Like I'd honestly rather listen to pop music than this. It just seems like they're playing it extremely safe, and if that's as an artistic decision, it's bad. As a commercial decision, that's life. But yeah, on to Flowers.
This one will probably be a difference of opinion. I might even come back at myself and say, what were you thinking? Because the first time I heard this, or when I was hearing the singles, I was like bored. I didn't like it. It was even worse than Color Decay. So by the time the album came out, I think maybe my expectations were significantly low, because I have it right in the middle of their discography for me. I have it above The Act and Color Decay, Transit Blues, and Dear Love, below all the rest of the good stuff. Because to me, I think this is the best sounding album, strictly production. Like I think, especially with like my AirPods or in the car, it sounds so good. I love the mixing out this record. It feels big and full. The drums sound great. They sound real. They don't sound like they're programmed drums. The guitar tones feel rich, and there's a great dynamic range. So I think that for me pulls a lot of the weight for when the times that the songs are like not as good, comparatively to the other very modern stuff like the bands we know, like Under Oath, where it's like they've come back, they're trying new things, but their records sound crappy. So I think I'm pleased to at least you've got this going on. What do I have? It takes the sing-songy parts of Color Decay and pushes it a step further. Some breakdowns here really just feel thrown on like an afterthought, like, oh, we have Mike in the band, he should do something quick. Put a breakdown. It's truly the first, like, Jeremy is the frontman album from the band. I would love to know what went into that decision, if that was intentional or if it was a response to what. I do think it's obvious that it's the first album with like a lot of co-writers, probably 7 or 8, maybe even 9 outside people that are writing. The only song on the entire album that doesn't have any outside writers was All Out. And I think that's really obviously one of the best songs on that album. I would wonder if you had the same takeaway. We have our obligatory F-word usage, so the transition from evangelical metalcore band to we're just normal guys is now complete. But it could be because it's newer, like I was saying earlier. I do think it's more compelling than Color Decay. I don't know why. I'm less bored by it. I think it's less octane rocky and more just like a different, quieter style. I do think there's also really interesting work with synth in this album. I would have to go back because I only noticed it today when I was thinking about it. So I haven't checked myself on this. But I feel like the synths were predominantly used for like ambiance and atmosphere in earlier Prada records. And here you actually have some leading lines and stuff that's like leading melody. And so it stood out in a different way. I really like When You're Gone. I like the time signature play in the bridge. I can't figure out. I'm not smart enough to count but is it like in 5/4 or something? I don't know. Eyes, I think, has a powerful chorus. And finally, Play the Old Shit, the hidden track, showing that yes, you do still have it. You can play the heavy stuff if you want, and you clearly just don't want to. You don't feel like you owe us anything.
No, so I actually did like the first 2 songs on this. I thought they were good pop rock songs. Like these are ones I would actually sing along. This is the best stuff that Prada has done since 818. Now, granted, that's not saying much in my book.
Wow, that surprised
me.
But
like it sounded like kind of, yeah. Oh, I mean, they as far as disposable pop rock goes, I mean, it sounded like. I mean, I hate the rest of it, but it's like it just feels like a state champs kind of band or some very poppy pop punk band. Like I honestly think they should just go pop punk. Like I know they probably keep Mike in the band because he's a founding member, and you don't want to like be like, well, we're changing our style, you got to go work at Pizza Hut now. But it's like he no longer adds anything. This is the Jeremy DePoister show. It makes me wonder if Jeremy DePoister is like considered handsome, because it feels like the Jeremy DePoister for the ladies. He's doing like, these love songs with Jeremy DePoister. It's like we went from silly songs with Mike to love songs with Jeremy. Veggie reference for you. But I mean, the rest of it just sound like it starts off okay, and if the other songs had been as good as the first 2 tracks, I think I would have thought it was an alright album, maybe like a little bit above like the more poppy Fall Out Boy albums. But the rest of it is just it feels very boring, like pop with guitars added. My Paradise is just depressing because it's got the whole thing is like maybe this mediocrity is my paradise, and it just like it's like okay, like is this actually like they just accept that they kind of suck now, like and they're okay with it, or is it like they're just kind of having to accept the fact that they have to play this music to survive, and like whenever they're going on stage, it's like another day at the office. I just imagine them all with like this like 1,000-yard stare as they're about to go on stage, like well boys, it's time to do another shift, and then they all walk out there and do their thing, and it's just they hate it. Having had a job I absolutely hated, I can understand. And then the last song, Play the Old Shit. Ooh, we used a curse word. Ooh, we're big boys now. That song made me mad. Like musically it was okay, but the lyrics are basically like, at least the way I take them, they're like basically trashing all the fans of the old stuff. Like, we don't owe you anything. And it's like, well, you kind of do. You owe these people your entire career. You owe that your career. I mean, it's not like you can do whatever music you want. That's your choice. But I feel, almost like offended them going and just, basically like trashing all the people who are fans of their old stuff, the stuff that originally propelled them to stardom. And I don't get what's with this like F the fans attitude. Again, I don't care if you change your style, but don't like trash people who like the old stuff that's significantly different and more musically complex and more groundbreaking. Like that just seems really like rude and unnecessary. So yeah, I think it was, kind of okay. We're cool because we use curse words now, but like if this album, and honestly, if if this disappeared off the face of the earth, I wouldn't be like sad. I wouldn't be particularly grateful either.
Well said. Yeah, that wraps up our LPs. We at least have our eras pretty much the same. I think I have Dear Love a little bit lower. It's always hard to rate those ones where it's like you like the musical style more, but it's amateurish and like quality versus like newer interesting stuff. Luckily for Prada, who I'm sure are sitting down and watching this podcast together, we don't need to end on a bad note. Let's tackle these 3 EPs, these themed EPs. Do you want to start off with Zombie?
It's good. It's probably the heaviest thing they had done up to this point. I feel like these EPs, at least the like Zombie 1 and 2, were like their excuse of like we're just gonna go all out. I think Zombie 1's a good album. I mean, it does kind of have a neat premise. I didn't really follow any of the lyrics or stuff. But it's just got some really heavy stuff. I think Escape is iconic, and all the rest, honestly, every song on here is good. I mean, the only problem I have with these EPs is because there's not really a lot of clean singing, it's hard for me to remember like which song is which I already have problems with. And on this one, it's like just, crushing, heaviness after crushing heaviness. So it kind of blends together, but it's not bad. Again, maybe not up to the level of like the albums from that time period, but still really good. Worth checking out if you like this band or this style of music.
Interesting. It hits me a lot harder. I think this is the best thing the Prada has done. This 5-song EP. I think it takes everything before it from the Sturgis era and combines it, crushes it really into this one epic, relentless, haunted 5-song offering. You've got no wasted moments this entire time. It starts off, with that nice little synth, like in the rain, ding, 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 ding. But then it kicks in and it's an insane breakneck pace. Makes me want to run through a wall. I think it is kind of hard after you listen to metalcore for a long time and after a song, you become familiar with it, to still get you hyped. But Escape, through the rest of the way, it still like evokes that within me. So obviously it's the top of my little EPs list. I think it's a wonderfully crafted and fun themed thing, a chance for them to be silly in a like scary way. Back when zombies were all the rage and you had Zombieland coming out and all that.
Yeah.
Love that shotgun moment.
Oh yeah, the samples are pretty cool. They do a good job of actually kind of incorporating them, and they're pretty iconic too. I think memorable. So yeah, Space. I guess this is about like a asteroid destroying the Earth or something. I like this one all right, but it ends in this really depressing way with like Earth getting wiped out or something, and so I didn't like it as much. It was like this is kind of a downer. A bit more kind of ambient and kind of spacey, kind of cleaner guitar tones on this and synth and stuff. Again, not much to say about it, but not because it's bad. I think it's a good solid listen. And again, just I don't quite, for me, it's not quite on the level of the albums, but it's nice to go back to.
Totally agreed. It's solid EP. It's fun. It's like a neat continuation of the idea of, oh, we can drop these little things. We don't have to make a full album. We can just like tackle a fictitious thing. But I do think this one is undoubtedly weaker than Zombie. First of all, it's got only one song, the last song that Chris wrote with the band, which was Supernova, and the rest is them like trying to figure out, how do we write songs that aren't based around like fun riffs? And you see that carry through right into Transit Blues the next year. So I think Alien is probably the best song on it. And then you've got a couple of good songs, Planet A, Supernova, Asteroid is all right. It's got that obviously memorable ending. But Moon God is kind of meh, and I don't really know why we have Celestial Mechanics even in there. I would have preferred that we kept it as 5 songs, so that all 3 of the EPs were 5 songs. That doesn't really matter, but my mind prefers it for matching. But that's really all I've got to say about that. Then we've got Z2, the final one. Whether it was just a nostalgia marketing ploy or just an excuse to write heavy songs again, who knows? I don't care. It works and I like it. To me, it doesn't hit the same heights as Zombie. I think because like none of the moments of the EP stand out in the same way that the first one does. Like you got the shotgun blast or the opera singer or like the radio call, you're getting outnumbered, or any of the samples, I guess, really. So I can't like pick out a moment and be like, oh yeah, it's that part. It's just straight good metalcore, which has been missing from Prada's back half of the discography. So it's like a welcome EP. But to me, it slots in number 2 of these 3. So Zombie, Zombie 2, and then Space.
That's exactly my ranking, and I feel again like Zombie 2 not quite as memorable as Zombie 1, but still enjoyable. Still the more heavy stuff. I think they can still do the heavy stuff. Mike can still sound somewhat decent. Again, it just makes me feel like all of their it kind of puts this period of their discography kind of makes it look even worse, puts it into focus, because like shoot, they could have been doing stuff like this the whole time. They've just chosen not to for whatever reasons, good or bad. And that is disappointing, but the music's definitely not disappointing. There's a really gnarly riff in Nora that I like. Nightfall is really good too. Again, yeah, I don't feel like it has I never paid attention to any of like the storyline, or the lyrics or anything on these, but like the original Zombie EP does feel like it has a storyline. I mean, it probably does, but it definitely makes you feel that way just through listening to the music because of the like judicious use of the samples. And again, the samples are put in there to where they really enhance the music rather than just distracting from it. So that for that reason, this one's a little bit below Zombie 1, but I'd still put it above Space. So we're exactly the same on that. And again, if you like that Where's Prada and you haven't listened to these, they're all worth listening to. Everything that they do,
you haven't listened to these, what are you doing?
Yeah. But like everything they do that's actually metalcore is good. Everything they do that's like pop rock or Touche Amore
or sad indie rock.
Bad. Yeah, sad indie rock. I don't like any of that, but I will wholeheartedly recommend anything they do that's metalcore. I hope they go back to it.
All right, 5 songs. This was, I mean, obviously, as we say a lot of these things for bands that we love with long discographies, it was hard to do. You had to make some cuts. Here are mine in chronological order. Hey, John, what's your name again? Assistant to the Regional Manager, Apocalypse, Escape, and Survivor. Those are my top 5.
So I was going to do mine a little bit differently because I like the first 5 albums so much. It's hard to pick, and I didn't just want to pick like 5 songs off Plagues or like the ones that are kind of the singles. So I decided to pick one for each album. So from Dear Love, I'd do Dogs Can Grow Beards All Over. Obvious choice, but obvious for all the right reasons. With Plagues, I'll go for Goats on a Boat. For Roots Above, Danger Wild Man. Dead Throne, I'll say Untitled. 818, Sailor's Prayer. But it's very hard to choose.
Yeah, they're definitely one of the strongest bands I think we've covered so far. The only other Prada thing, I really love their cover of Sour Breath. Didn't crack the top 5, but I want to throw that out there. And another Prada thing, if you've never heard of it or whatever, check out South of the City. Do you know about that song?
I know that it exists because I see it here on Spotify. And I don't know if I've listened to it.
They challenged themselves, I think it was 4 days, from conception of song, like they didn't bring in any ideas they had, to releasing it. So like production done, all that sort of stuff. So with that in mind, I think it's a fun song and it showcases where they are at the time. I think that like covers everything I like about Prada. What will it take for things to be quiet?
Dead and gone.